Adrian Galindo, what's up, brother?
What's up, man?
Welcome to Earn It All podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. So let's get into who you are first. So I'm going to give a brief overview, but back me up with something here. We are making a pro debut this year.
Yes, sir.
You have extensive experience in BJJ, Jiu-Jitsu, and now MMA, but you're also a beverage director, right? You got a lot of cool stuff going on. So tell us who you are. Fighting, booze, like who is Adrian?
I feel like that kind of sums it up, fighting and booze. So I do the beverage programs for a couple restaurants here in town. Really lucky to be surrounded with the people that I'm surrounded with. Armando Hernandez and Nadia Olgin are two of the primary owners. Also Roberto Centeno and Renee Andrade, who are all James Beard nominated, just killers. And
awesome. Which restaurants?
So we have Bacanora Phoenix in downtown Phoenix, Espiritu Mesa, Cocina Chihuas in Tempe, and then we just opened another location in Arcadia called Santo Arcadia.
Oh, that's right. That's a new one.
Yes, yeah. It's got a little speakeasy in the back, and that's kind of my baby. I love. So I do obviously the beverage programs, all the cocktails, wine, beer, and it's been nice to be in a position where one, I'm kind of creatively free, and then two, have enough work that I can delegate out certain responsibilities and bring on some amazing people to help me out with that. Some of my friends in the industry, my soon kind of developing wine director, Johnny, and then my other buddies on that I train with. I've been lucky to kind of bring them on and onboard other people that we all, we have all of our own stuff going on, but the nice thing is we can all kind of come together in a similar mission and push that ball forward together.
Well, it's a team effort like anything.
Oh,
right?
yeah. Nonstop, man.
Yeah.
Like it's astounding the amount of work that people don't really realize is involved with something as simple as like a dinner, like just a single dinner service.
Yeah.
So it's funny because I think it really is. It's the dichotomy of what I like to kind of how I like to live my life. And I think it's like perfectly in line with you guys. I think that's one of the things I love about the Earn It All, like the entire situation you guys have going is, I always joke Valhalla is the perfect like heaven because you just struggle all day, you fight all day, and then you party all night. And so that's kind of the life I've set up for myself,
So let's talk about that. You mentioned fighting all day.
Yeah.
And I do want to dive more into the earn your booze aspect because I think a lot of people are interested when they hear someone like yourself who's a professional in sports and you're a fighter, but also knows how to have a good time and not let alcohol kind of affect or ruin training or the life or the results that you've been able to earn. Yeah. So I want to dive into that, but let's talk about fighting, right? Because I think that's how we originally met through Mandy.
Yes.
She's like, "Hey, I got a great fighter. Like, here's who he is. Here's what he does." And now we've hung out a couple times, and you've been on the Earn It All coaching call and telling people about your 5 maxims for combat. And I want to get into that, but tell me about fighting. So, tell us your record for MMA and jiu-jitsu and all that.
Yeah. So full story. I started combat sports in high school. Started wrestling my sophomore year. I'd played soccer my whole life. My dad was a coach, pretty deeply entrenched in the soccer world in California, where I grew up. And
where in California?
Simi Valley. It's a small town.
I know Simi Valley.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Okay. So it's like right between LA and Ventura.
Yeah, Valencia.
It's a nice little area. I mean, I was lucky. I love the Dave Chappelle bit of being like, my parents did just well enough that we were the poorest people in the community, which, we definitely weren't the poorest, but that always just makes me laugh, especially being my grandparents are all from Mexico. So it was kind of cool to have the multiple cultures of, the grandparents on the weekends speaking Spanish and, Mexican food and carne asadas. And then, being around all my cop and firefighter dads, friends' dads rather, where it was just a very cool meshing of several cultures.
Yeah. So, well, let's talk about that. I'm curious because now, you're a fighter now.
Yeah.
Did you grow up in a household that was already into fighting? Was it a calm household? What did dad do? What was your culture like growing up, and did that affect you getting into fighting?
So my mom was a stay-at-home mom for a little bit.
Okay.
And then my dad's always been in construction. So I grew up on tractors and shit. And it was just, it it was awesome, man, being around, a lot of hardworking people.
Yeah.
My dad fought when he was younger, although didn't really get the chance to carry that lifestyle forward. I think he competed in like Kempo. And then really, honestly, I always blame my uncle, because my uncle Adrian he was a fighter. He started training Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu back in the 90s, like right when it was fresh on the scene, boxed. His way of greeting me was he would hide behind the door when I was a little kid, and he'd sneak up behind me, put me in a rear naked choke, and he'd be like, "Get out of this." And I say, so I think from a young age, I was like, "Oh no, this is not good." I was like, I don't know what to do here. And so I think that always kind of sat with me a little bit in the back of my mind, of being like, there's people in this world who can just sneak up behind you and just put you in a rear naked. And if you don't know what you're doing, that's a wrap.
Well, that's good. So it started kind of sinking in your mind when you were a kid, or how old were you then? Like in 5,
a child.
10, a little kid?
Legitimately.
Yeah.
I mean, some of my earliest memories around that uncle in particular was mostly that. And, the lifestyle in and of itself wasn't crazy. I don't know if that's my phone. Can you see if my phone's in my bag really quick? Can you hand it to me? I'll shut that off if it is it. Thank you. I'm sorry about that, brother. But so yeah, my parents, pretty typical childhood. Unfortunately or fortunately, I tend to look at it fortunately, my parents got divorced when I was probably like 11 or 12. So I started splitting time between them. Soccer just kind of lost its flair for me. I got to a point where I was playing, I was playing club, played high school, but just for whatever reason, I just lost the love for it that I'd had most of my young life, and found wrestling in high school, and was kind of like, this looks kind of interesting. And I had a lot of friends who were on the wrestling team, and went in and tried out. And I think I've never thrown up. I've only thrown up once, I should say, during a workout. And it was like my first day wrestling. And I was like, I like this. I don't know what this is, but it's difficult, and I like it. And so sophomore year started wrestling, moved out here for college, out to Arizona to go to ASU, and realized I was just missing that. I always make the kind of argument that I think that men in particular, I think humans in general, but men in particular need combat.
Yeah.
Like you need a physical struggle that is very high consequence. I don't think anything pushes you nearly as much as like high consequence things.
I totally agree. I took a class here at our office a few weeks ago with Shockwave Defense.
Oh, nice.
And it's not a self-defense class. It's more like a self-offense class. Like if somebody's already in your space and you have to take care of it, it was one of those. But I loved it because it was, like you said, it was very hands-on. We all got punched.
Yeah.
The face, the neck, the back, and even like he was practicing and showing us why you don't want to fight somebody with a knife. So he had the knife like down like this, and I was one of his demo guys for this. He's like, "Hey, go ahead, attack me," so rights and lefts and doing the thing. And dude, within a few seconds, I had like 17 strikes and like dew claw like pulls. Like I was done.
Yeah.
I was completely done. But what I loved about it, and I bring that up because I had kind of forgotten what it was like to be hit. And to have that, and you could see it as like we started the class, I would hit my partner, and you could see like the initial like, I was like, oh wait, no, like we're doing this on purpose, so like nobody like took it personally, thankfully. There's a few guys you could tell it didn't rub them the right way.
Yeah.
But it was such a good reminder of like, oh dude, like this is part of the reason why we train.
Yes.
We don't just try to be strong and fast just because, and just to have like a number on a piece of paper. Who cares? Like, can you apply that to something?
Yes.
And do you know what to do with your hands? Because it doesn't matter how much you can bench if you have no idea how to block or throw a punch, right? Or defend yourself even at a basic level.
Yeah.
So I love that hands-on part, and it really woke something up in me, and it's got me like, okay, I need to do more.
Yeah.
Like I just want to do more. Like, yeah, I kind of want to get punched more, and I want to just see what I'm made of. Because like you said, it pulls out that kind of primal thing that's in us, especially as men, to like, no, we need an edge like that we don't just get from working out or training, really.
Yeah, no, definitely. You gotta get that piss and vinegar out, man. And it is very much, I always kind of the way I describe it to people is I'm like, when I don't go to training, I get in my car and I'm driving and I'm just like, I can feel everything just tense and I'm just
squeezing
like,
the wheel.
Yeah. Just like kind of angry. And then as soon as I'm done with training, I'll be like beat up, black eye, you know, my arms kind of hurt. My legs are tired. I'm sore. And I'm just like in my car, and just a smile like comes across my face. And I'm like, we're doing the thing, man. Like it feels good. You have a real, kind of a mark of work being done, you know?
Yeah.
And it hits, to me, it marks all the boxes. Like there's a lot of strategy. There's a lot of like mental demand. And of course there's insane physical demand, you know? Like when you talk about applicability, like even just knowing how long you have realistically in a fight before you get tired, like knowing how to manage your energy demands.
And who knows that?
Yeah.
Nobody.
Yeah. No, you don't.
If you don't train and track that data, you have no idea.
Yeah.
You might think you're the baddest, strongest dude around, but dude, you might have 8 seconds in you, maybe at max.
100%.
Like you never know. Like and so why not test that?
Yeah. It's one of my favorite Joe Rogan quotes when he's like talking about, he's like, if I ever get into a fight, he's like, I'll just put my hands up, just block for 30 seconds, you know, like,
wear 'em out.
Okay. And then after 30 seconds, like, oh, now we're fighting.
Yeah.
Like, you know, when you see people just holding their breath and just hitting as hard as they can, it's like, dude, you've never done this before. Like this is what I do. I know that I got a good, you know, five minutes hard. I got 20 minutes taking some time off, getting back, checking my distance, grappling, you know, I have X amount of time. I know because of the experience, not because of, you know, I see red and that's it. No. It's because I've gone too hard for 5 minutes and been like dead at the end. So you learn how to manage that, purely just the energy demands, right?
And you can only learn it by doing it.
Yes.
You can't read, you can't listen to a podcast, you can't hear or watch on TV, you know, what happens. Like you have to experience it. Like I learned this for the very first time, like a long time ago when I was just doing like bodybuilding workout type stuff. And then I got into like the boxing classes, just like the heavy bag stuff, you know, like boxing, conditioning, cardio type thing. So I did that for a couple months. And then we had a pro at the gym and he was doing like, hey, if you want to get in and spar with the pro, like just get in. And this is so funny, dude. Like I was training really hard. Like I was in really good shape. And so I get there. I had not worked out for the day. I was fed. I was hydrated. Everything was perfect. I had good energy, clarity, and all this, right? And I was like, all right, cool. Let's go and see, you know? And we went in and 5 seconds.
Just got tuned up.
Dude. Yeah. But the crazy thing is like I didn't like get knocked out or take so many hits that I was physically from the hits like done. It was the adrenaline, the excitement. Like I got gassed just from the excitement of this guy that like he came like, you know, some weak punches for him that I was like, oh shit, I don't want a real punch from this guy because I'm screwed, you know? And I'm doing my best. I'm throwing some, but just that little like on edge, I haven't done this before. I was wiped. And I don't even think we lifted afterwards. Yeah. Because that's how much it gassed me out. You know, and so like I would love for guys, especially guys that are working on their capability, their fitness, to start to incorporate something that is combat related, something that's hands-on. And that's the question I have for you. Like, I think a lot of guys probably start with boxing like I did, because it's kind of like, in my opinion, like a lower barrier to entry. Everyone can get a heavy bag and take your time getting the awkward lefts out, you know, if you're right-handed, and like 100%. Just starting to feel a little confident in your own backyard or something. But like, I think everyone should feel that. They should feel what it's like to get punched in the face. They should feel what it's like to get wrapped up to where you can't move, to feel where like, oh, I'm being choked out right now. And to know what that's like, where do you think guys should start?
To be honest, I do agree that the boxing is kind of the lowest barrier to entry. And I think when you get into like pure arts, boxing is probably second or third in the realm of applicability.
Like skills to have.
Yeah, skills to have for sure. I grappling background and most of my wins are via grappling. Even my Muay Thai wins. You asked about my record earlier. It's 4-0 in Muay Thai and 4-1 in MMA. And almost even my Muay Thai wins were primarily because in Muay Thai you can clinch. So you can hold on and basically grapple. And a lot of those grappling mechanics, again, you're managing energy, you're managing distance, you're staying safe. And you know, so for me, I always kind of steer people towards Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. If they're going to do like a pure art. Yeah. I think everybody should do MMA just across the board. Yeah. I think it's by far and away the most effective. Like, you know, if I can grapple and you can strike, I'm going to win. Like, it just pretty much across the board, unless you get a real lucky punch. As long as I can close the distance and take 1 or 2 good hits, I'm probably going to win. If you have a decent enough grappling background that you can keep the fight striking, well, now you're even better place. Yeah. You know, because now you're going to win in 2 places.
I remember, especially in the early days of UFC, like a lot of guys would be like, "Oh, he's a striker. Yes, he can't go to the ground. Yeah, or this guy's primarily a ground guy. He's going to try to take him down." And I think I've noticed that there's a lot more well-rounded fighters now. Oh, yeah. Or it's not just like, ooh, a striker versus a ground guy, and he hopes that he's not taken down. And now it's just kind of like whatever you got to pull out of the bag of tricks to make it happen. There seems to be more well-rounded, more versatile fighters now.
100%. Yeah, everybody, I think, you know, when you get to the high levels, everybody's at least an 8 out of 10 in pretty much everything. And then the thing that kind of separates them is you'll have somebody who's a 9 or a 10 out of 10 in one thing and an 8 out of 10 in everything else. Yeah. So they're at least good enough to keep the fight where they want it. Which again, I think, you know, that's why you see such a high propensity of wrestlers doing so well. It's because the whole premise of wrestling is to keep you dictate where the fight goes. Yeah. If you want the fight to go to the ground, you can get it to the ground. If you want the fight to stay up, you can not get taken down and keep it up. So it's again, there's kind of an issue with the way I think that humans think, in that we kind of need categorizations for everything, right? So everybody's like, well, what should I learn? Should I learn, you know, just jiu-jitsu or just boxing or just more? Like, you should learn whatever you're interested in, for sure. Totally. But it also comes down to goals. Like, if you're like, I want to be a fighter, well, you got to learn everything. You just have to. You can't try to make it to the UFC and be, you know, well, I don't really box. That's not my thing. It's like, well, it better be your thing, because otherwise you're going to get tuned up. Yeah.
It's mixed. Yes. Martial arts.
100%. You know, and especially now more than ever, you know, because now, like you said, the game's just evolved so much in the last 10, 20 years, where you could, you know, 20 years ago, you could be Royce Gracie and just nobody knew what you were doing. You just go to the ground, throw up a triangle choke, throw up an arm bar, and everybody was just, it's wizardry because they have no idea what's going on. Now it's not like that. Now everybody's got a base level of understanding of jiu-jitsu, wrestling, Muay Thai, boxing. And so again, I think if you're doing it as a hobby where you're like, I just want to be proficient, I would go Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and maybe boxing, because those do seem to be the most accessible for people. There's a jiu-jitsu school basically everywhere now.
That's a good point.
Yeah. And boxing, same thing. Where like Muay Thai, there isn't as much. There just isn't. I did just see that the Thai government is starting to understand that it is one of their primary exports. So they actually are going to start a belt ranking system for Muay Thai in efforts to to get it to like the level of Taekwondo, karate, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
It's interesting that doesn't exist already.
No. Yeah. So right now you're basically just kind of like, that guy's good.
Or I just do Muay Thai.
Yes. 100%.
And someone goes, nah, not really.
Yeah. You get some little Thai dude who has, you know, I mean, in Thailand, that's legitimately their lives.
Have you been to Thailand?
I haven't. No, it's on the bucket list, but I have a bunch of homies who go and they go, but like if you grow up in Thailand, a lot of the families there, at least to my understanding, obviously you can fact check it on your own, but to my understanding, especially if you're from a poor family, you have one of 2 choices. You either go into sex work or you go into Muay Thai. And like when you're like 8, 9 years old, they're like, you decide, and you're going to send that money back to the family. Yeah. And so you have these guys who by the time they're 18, they have 180 Muay Thai fights. Yeah. They're just fighting every weekend. Yeah. And it's, you know, so the problem, I don't mind not having a belt system, because the belt system is flawed, just like any system. Yeah. But I do think in terms of export, I think that'll help out a lot.
It's definitely smart.
Yeah.
And it's going to bring more awareness to the sport in general.
100%.
Because like I've been to some Muay Thai fights, but you don't really know much about it, and you're just watching and stuff. But if I, as someone who doesn't know anything about Muay Thai, if I, saw that there was a belt ranking system, even if it wasn't perfect, I would start to place, okay, where are these guys perceived to be at? And, and it helps just bring more, clarity to what this sport even is.
Exactly.
You mentioned, I wanted to ask you about the mind and the mindset, because, we have so many fighters now, like you said, that are like 8 or 9s out of basically everything. Like the skills are really high among a lot of guys.
Yeah.
And I think, and I'd like to know your opinion as being a pro fighter, getting into your pro debut this year.
Yeah.
I'd like to know how much you think like the mind is an edge now. Because I know it's always been like mindset, like, and there's so many quotes from like so many, even from like race car drivers and guys that are just like at the top of their game. I feel like that's like the edge for a lot of guys is like, because the skills are there. And maybe you get caught by something and next time you catch him, by a certain kind of punch or a kick or something. But going into these things, like, I feel like a lot of the times the guys that win have already won in their head.
100%.
So what does that look like as a fighter?
Yeah.
Getting in there, knowing that this guy thinks he's going to destroy you, but like getting yourself to truly to an elite mindset.
Yeah. I like, I've always liked the idea that confidence for sure is one of the most important things, but confidence comes from competence and not the other way around. So you have, I'm only confident when I feel that I'm competent in every area. And it's one of the things I try to instill in like a lot of the people I coach, a lot of even like my peers, we'll talk, we talk the same way, water cooler talk. You're like, damn dude, like, I don't know why I just can't get my head straight. And the thing I've noticed is, everybody across the board has doubts, like whether you're talking business, fighting, just across every kind of genre of human existence. Yeah. Everybody has doubts. And the thing I try to teach is, and the thing I try to do is you got to lean into those doubts. Like doubts are there for a reason. You should have doubts. That's very healthy. Right. And it tells you almost always where you're lacking. So like for me, whenever I'll start sparring, get into a camp, and my doubts will start creeping up. I'll be like, dude, well, my hands aren't good enough. And it's like, okay, work on that. Like you need to get you need to start working on more boxing. So you
catch it when you hear that thought.
Yes.
You catch it and you address it.
You need to.
I do the same thing. Like if you ignore it, that's where it starts to fester and become more of a mountain instead of a molehill.
Yes.
But if I catch myself saying something negative or having doubt, I'll literally turn like and like try to face it and be like, no, I have to get over this right now.
100%.
And get through it.
And there's always ways to get through it is the thing, it's like it's specifically with fighting. The nice thing about fighting is that it's very, in a lot of ways, it's very concrete. Again, it's like my hands aren't good enough. Box. I'm just worried like, my cardio is going to give out. Well, we know how to do cardio.
Train.
Bro. Like, like do specific cardio exercises. Like, if you're worried about, well, I always gas out in the third round. Perfect. Okay, well, now we know they're 5-minute rounds. You're going to do, 3 5-minute intervals. You're going to go as hard as you can for 5 minutes. Take a minute off because that's your rest time for the fight. Do another 5 hard minutes, another rest time, and then another 5 hard minutes. And guess what? That third one, you may not be good at it the first time. Yeah. But the second time, third time, fourth time, 12th time, 15th time, by the time you're, walking out to the cage, you're like, if this shit goes 3 rounds, I'm good. Yeah. Like I know I'm good because I've done harder shit in practice. Yeah. So I know, again, most of the mindset I think correctly is when you can find those doubts early and you, I like to put it like you just crush it with just force of will, discipline, and, competence. Yeah. So you said confidence through competence. Yes. And you get that through hands on the bag, through cardio, through all that training. And that's really how you can earn that level of confidence going in. Because in fighting, like there's no hiding it, right? No. Like it doesn't matter if you have all the confidence in yourself in the world if you have no idea what you're doing because you're done immediately. Yeah. So true confidence really is earned. 100%. And it's earned by putting in the reps, it's putting in the work and knowing that you're confident in those things. And it's easy to see when someone has that fake confidence because the results aren't there. Yeah. Yeah. The loudest dogs don't bite, dogs that bark don't bite. And you definitely see that, particularly in fighting. It's one of the things I love about it is, a lot of other mentally challenging, whether you call them sports or games, like chess. I love chess. And it's like one of the things, the consequences aren't very high. So You lose a game of chess, it's like, dude, I let you in. I was trying some stuff out.
Try again.
It's like, if we're fighting, like you didn't just let me beat the shit out of you for, for 5 minutes.
Right.
Like there was nothing you could do because you're not going to let me give you brain damage. Like you're just not. The consequences are too high. And so you run into that thing again of just your competence in the ring will translate directly to your confidence in the ring.
Totally.
So especially, I'm really lucky. A lot of the guys I train with, whether it's at Jay Page's, my jiu-jitsu school out in Tempe.
Awesome spot.
Yeah, I love it, man. And then, or even, at Fight Ready up here in Scottsdale, I was lucky enough to make the pro team up here and train with some of the, in my opinion, one of the best gyms in the world, some of the best guys in the world. And, walking in, my mindset is always like, this guy's not going to hit as hard as Ray Waters. He's not going to have as good ground game as Oscar De Los Santos. Like I can go in and be like, I know they're not as good as the people that I've trained with. Mm-hmm. And I know how those guys beat me. And whether, even if it's somebody who just tunes me up all the time, I'm like, I know I can take it at the very least.
Yeah, that's great.
And so I think mindset, that's a big one. But I think the other thing is kind of knowing as well that you can beat that little bitch, like the little bitch inside that just tells you to quit. I think doing hard things just across the board, knowing that you've put the work in, being able to do things that may be entirely outside the realm of what your specific skill set is. Like I'm a big fan of ice baths, particularly because I hate the cold. Like I could sit in a sauna for an hour and a half, 2 hours, and I'll be like, oh, this is nice.
Right.
You put me in cold water, I'm like, this fucking sucks. And I think, stuff like that where you're like, I know I can suffer for I know I can put myself through suffering more than the suffering you're going to give to me, And so on the mindset side, I think it's stuff like that, having some struggle that you can deal with. And across all facets of life, I'm really lucky to be surrounded with the people that I've surrounded myself with who are all, in my opinion, pretty high performers, whether it's James Beard nominated chefs or, world champion MMA fighters. And the thing across the board is they're all pretty similar. They all just show up, they do the work, whether they feel good or don't feel good, they do what they say they're going to do. They're very big on their word and they're very big on their actions. They understand that their actions are the thing that really sets them apart, but your word is who you are, like to yourself. I talk about this all the time with some of the boys where it's like, if you set an alarm, you're like, I'm going to wake up at 5 a.m. I'm going to hit the gym first thing in the morning. And there's that little voice in the back of your head that's like, oh, you're not. Nah. You're gonna hit snooze on that alarm. You're going.
Might as well put 5:20. We know what you're actually gonna do.
Yes, 100%. And that is, in my opinion, that's probably one of the most important things in terms of mindset is that whenever you make a covenant with yourself, you have the evidence to be like, dude, I'll wake up at 4 a.m. I know I will because I've done it before. I'll do what I say I'm gonna do because I've done it.
Adam, our head coach, says this all the time. He says, you're either stacking proof that you are who you say you are, or you're stacking proof in the other direction that you're full of shit. Mm-hmm. And one of the easiest ways to stack it in your favor is to just do what you tell yourself you're going to do, right?
100%.
And the alarm is such a good one. Yeah. If you set the alarm for 5 and you get up at 5, you're already proving to yourself that you're doing what you say you're going to do. Mm-hmm. Really simple. On the flip side, if you hit snooze, even if you get up and get after it and get into your day, subconsciously, you've already told yourself that you didn't start the day by doing what you said you're going to do.
Yeah. Yeah. It is a very slippery slope in that.
Yeah. And it's such a small thing, but guys work on the big things.
Yes.
No, the little things matter. Right. 100%. And we talked about this beforehand, and I want to talk about your training too, especially because what you said earlier was so good was, it's the little things that we overlook or we don't pay attention to that, especially in a fight, might lead to a knockout or a choke out or a slip or a damn, because it's a little thing. So I want to talk about your training routine, because we train people with fitness, nutrition, habits, lifestyle changes, mindset, all those things. And that's around helping them become more physically and mentally capable, but we don't do fighting. So how does somebody like you that needs to be conditioned, needs to be strong, probably flexible, like what is your training like when it comes to working out in a regular gym and then sparring and wrestling, grappling? Like, what does that mix look like for you on maybe like a weekly basis?
Yeah. So, I mean, contrary to popular belief, I'm not perfect. I know everybody always says that but I think a lot of it is just trying to get as close to perfect as possible. And like you say, you have so many things to worry about, whether it's grappling, striking, strength and conditioning, cardio, flexibility, rest and recovery is probably my number one priority.
A lot of people overlook that for sure.
It's the most important thing, man, because especially the whole premise of fighting, even if you're not actively taking fights, the whole idea of it is like we're trying to break each other, whether it's, brain damage, body damage, breaking your joints, choking you unconscious.
Yeah, just ruining the other guy.
Yeah. Even like my personal favorite is just drag them to the deep waters and drown them, man.
Yeah.
Like put them in a place where their cardio is if you are too tired to throw a punch, I'm gonna win the fight.
So how do you build your cardio? Do you get it from fighting? Do you do HIIT? Are you doing, long steady state cardio, a mix? What's your cardio?
I think a mix is the best. I'm really lucky in that I have a strength and conditioning / like physical therapist that I work with. He works with most of the pro team over at Fight Ready. Austin Schoen, he's through like Building a Fighter, and he works at Warrior Sports Wellness. And I'm lucky to kind of delegate a lot of that to him, where I'm just like, he knows the energy requirements, he knows the mechanical requirements, he knows the rest requirements. So sometimes, it'll be like, hey man, we're not going to lift today. We're going to do some manual therapy. We're going to stretch. Cool. We're going to do some electrotherapy or dry needling rather. And I think the biggest thing is just doing as much as you can, as often as you can. For cardio specifically, I like to be specific. So I'll personally gauge it again to whatever the demands are for that fight. So if it's 5-minute rounds, again, like 5 minutes hard, 1 minute off. 5 minutes hard, 1 minute off. And then I do have a background in kinesiology, dropped out of college, but I was going to school for it. And so I do have a little bit of a background in that. And my personal kind of feel is that it all helps. Yeah. It just helps in different ways. And
so when is your next fight? And I'll
so
tell you
right
why
now,
I asked that.
So I think I'm going to do, I think right now we're trying to get everything down on paper. I want to make sure I make the moves properly, but it's looking like June for MMA.
Okay. April. So you got about 3 months. Mm-hmm. So you just mentioned let's just say it's 5-minute rounds.
Yeah.
You're going to train for that. How long out from the fight do you start training like that? And like now, do you ever jump into like an F45 class or a CrossFit class? Mm-hmm. Like, are you ever doing like, muscle building and conditioning? Are you doing deadlifts and curls? Are you doing like some of the standard gym bro stuff too? Like, how does that kind of factor in with your coach who's training you for the fight?
Yeah, definitely strength training. I mean, across the board, I think resistance training, if my dropping out of college for kinesiology has taught me anything, it's that resistance is kind of king.
Okay.
The movements do change. So you do more compound movements for sure.
Yeah.
You do a lot of sport specific stuff. You also do things that kind of balance, right? So we're very, like maybe if you're in a sport that's very taxing in one plane of motion, you might add several other planes of motion in order to balance it out. Or, a unilateral thing. Like if you're constantly throwing a right hand, like I fight southpaw. So if I'm constantly throwing a right jab, we may need to balance it out, switch the stance up, make sure my left hand is balanced in that regard. But yeah, the deadlift, man, deadlifts are king. A lot of sled pushes, a lot of interval training.
Doing pull-ups and bodyweight stuff.
Yeah, a lot of bodyweight, man. Honestly, I am of the personal philosophy that everything can help if you do it with the correct intention.
Yeah.
So if you can make an argument to me of why I should be doing something,
sure,
I should be doing it.
Sure.
As far as specifically like what a week looks like, perfect world. And again, I'm not perfect, but what I aim for generally is 6 a.m. I'll try to hit jujitsu. Do that for about an hour and a half. I usually have some privates where I teach MMA, Muay Thai, boxing, wrestling, jujitsu. And I'll do that until about 9 a.m. and then head up to the pro classes at 10. We do sparring twice a week. So Tuesdays and Fridays, pardon me. And we'll do usually like a day or two of grappling and then a day or two of striking in between. And then whenever you can, you know, we talked about this earlier with Adam. One of the things I love that he was on that coaching call kind of telling was just micro workouts, kind of micro, even if they're not taxing your cardiovascular system or taxing your muscular system, what we do is primarily a skill.
Yeah.
So a lot of skills is you're just training nerves. You want to be efficient. You want to have your body just kind of naturally do stuff.
Keep it.
Yeah. And the best way of doing that is just pure repetitions.
Yeah.
So I always, you know, kind of have the joke of me in the bathroom at any time I go to the bathroom in front of the mirror, I'm like, you know, kind of trying to shadow box, find the weight, sit in my stance, throw a couple punches, you know, be in there for like 30 seconds and just kind of feel it out and be like, okay, well, I can see, you know, certain things that I need to work on, certain things that don't feel as comfortable. So for sure, fitting it in when you can, because, you know, I do also have a full-time job on the side as a beverage director. So 10 to 12, I'm usually at Fight Ready, trying to get in as much work as I can there. And then from 1 p.m. to 10 p.m. I'm at the restaurants. And then, you know, I almost always have a hard out at 10 p.m.
Yeah.
Because I need to I prioritize rest pretty heavily. So
Good.
Try to get back to the house, be in bed by 11 p.m., asleep. You know, I have my little nighttime routine to kind of wind down. And then, you know, trying to do as much as I can, as often as I can. And that'll change pretty, you know, not frequently, but I'll hit stints. Like we just opened a new restaurant. So I kind of had to take like a month where I was just diving hard into the restaurants.
Yeah.
And then, you know, the first half of the year was kind of, or first quarter, I guess, of the year was diving into the restaurants, making sure that, you know, the home life was good, my headspace was good, I could provide what I needed to provide. And then that allows me to take the time to be like, all right, everybody okay? No, nothing's going to catch on fire. Golden. I'm going back hard into training. And then I'll amp up the training a little bit, little by little. But yeah, perfect world. I mean, twice a day, if I can, whether it's strength and conditioning, I do that twice a week. And then fitting in like cardio workouts. The hardest thing I think is, especially for fighters, we generally tend to be hard on the other end of overtrained and underrested. Well, I think most of the population is just undertrained and underrested.
Yeah.
Or undertrained and overrested a lot of the time, right?
Right.
A lot of sedentary lifestyle. But so it's also kind of surrounding yourself with a good coaching team who will tell you like, hey man, you're looking like shit today. Like just go light.
Yeah.
You don't need to be getting hard rounds in. You don't need to be getting cage rounds in. You just need to rest.
Yeah.
And having the people in your corner who will apply the brake for you. Because as a general rule, like fighters, we're all gas pedal. We're just like, no, I need to be in the gym as much as I can. I need to hit the bag for an hour. I need to, do 1,000 kicks a day. I need to grapple for 3 hours. And it's a lot of the time it's like, no, dude, you need sleep. Like you need to sleep, you need to eat right. You need to, take a day off.
Right.
Every once in a while you need to go for a hike, do something, go off, get some active rest in, relax, get your headspace back, let your body recover because it needs to recover. Again, what we do is a very, very taxing thing, not only on your body, but also on your mind.
On your mind, for sure.
Yeah, you're taxing your nervous system just nonstop.
I'm glad you said that because we get a lot of people in that are super motivated to get their fitness together, to get jacked, get ready for summer, the wedding, whatever it is. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of people, more than I anticipated before we got into this business, that try to take on too much stuff. They'll come in, buy one of our 90-day programs, and then tell us, oh, I'm also doing 75 hard, and I also have a trainer to help me with this particular thing. And I'm also training for a Spartan race. And it's like, dude, you're not gonna get the results you want. One, two, you're going to burn out. Yeah. You're probably gonna get injured, and it's like you're working against yourself. So I agree. It's incredibly important to stay consistent. Like you said, like even if you can get some micro work in, like the body, like it's a skill, especially in fighting, but in even in just training, you want to keep your body moving. That's the most number one thing, is consistent, in my opinion, keep it going. But then know when you need to take a break. Because it's not like taking a break. That doesn't mean you're lazy. That doesn't mean you've failed or given up. But the body does need to recover physically and mentally. So I'm glad that you said that, because it's amazing how many people we have to convince, no, you don't have to do 75 hard on top of this program you're already doing. Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, it's and that's why I'm a big fan of coaches, because you do need that third party kind of objective view, and particularly the objective view of experts. Like you don't want to be asking your friend who goes out to the bars every weekend and is 200 pounds overweight. He's like, nah, bro, you just need to come out, drink some beers with me. Like you don't want that guy's opinion, because he has no idea. You want to go to people who are in the position that you want to be in, and they're like,
correct.
Hey man, you're doing too much. Like I can see it. A lot of times, again, what we do is very taxing. So it's pretty easy to see when somebody's like nerves are burnt out, or if their cardio, like they're just not there, they're getting sick all the time, stuff like that. And that's why I personally try my hardest to kind of have the same day every day with little variable change. So like I'm a big fan of whenever people tell me like, well, what should I do? Like, should I do 2 times a week, 3 times a week? I'm like, you should do 7 times a week, but the way you do it should be at a volume that makes sense. So you can do 7 times a week, an hour a day, and like that's going to kill you. Or you can do 7 times a week, 10 minutes a day. That's fine, because that's at the end of the day, that's going to be 70 minutes. Which is, I think all the clinical research shows that if you do something 10 minutes a day, 1 day every week, you're going to have considerably better results across the board than if you do it once a week for an hour.
We tell people all the time when they ask that question, like, what should I do? 2 days a week, 3 days a week, 5? Like, what can you be consistent with? Like, what is sustainable for you? Because we don't want anyone to do a crash diet or get into a big workout challenge just for the hell of it and then struggle through it. Then at the end, fall off the wagon and just jump into booze and pizza and just like need this huge mental break because it wasn't sustainable. I would rather have somebody go 3 days a week that is actually sustainable with their lifestyle, their workflow, their family life, and all that, and do that consistently, get the belief built up in themselves, get some real long-term results coming in, and stick with that. That's going to be a better long game instead of just trying to just go, and then get burned out and quit. That's what happens with most people, especially like have you ever done 75 hard?
No.
I've done it. It was my 3rd attempt when I finally succeeded with it. The first 2 I failed for, just didn't get something done. But most people that say they want to do 75, I always ask them, all right, cool, great, I've done it, but like, why? Why do you want to do that? And you got to have the real intention, like, why are you doing fill in the blank? Even like, why do you want to lose weight? Tell me what it is so I can help you find a real, path that is sustainable to getting and keeping those results.
And that's especially very evident with fighters. Unfortunately, the way the game is kind of like, you do actually have even people who kind of go that route of just, Paddy Pimblett's a great example of, in camp, he loses 20, 30 pounds, like not even cuts, like loses, like there's guys like that who they're like, well, when I'm in camp, discipline. And then when I'm out of camp, it's just like, 3 sheets to the wind. I'm getting drunk. I'm eating all the food in the world. I'm gaining, 100 pounds, whatever it is. And particularly just kind of with what fighting is, you can get called at any moment. One of my buddies, Henry Corrales, absolute savage, he got called on 6 days notice to fight, one of the best fighters in the world, in my opinion, at Bellator. And because he's got that dog, like his lifestyle is fighting. He isn't a fighter.
He's just ready.
He is always ready. Like he lives that shit. And so when you can have that thing of like, he's at the gym every day. Like when you have those guys who are like, I'm at the gym every day, I'm much more ready for those opportunities. Like there's a lot of guys who get called on, 2 weeks notice, a week notice. And it's like, if you haven't been in the gym, you're not going to be ready, And so that's where I try to harp on the lifestyle portion of it pretty hard. Cause it's like, I would rather consistently be at 80% and ready than be, 40% and then 90% and then 40% and then 90% ready. which definitely happens. And, you know, to each their own. Some people like to operate that way, and that is, you know, it is what it is. That's their life. But I do think that when you can set up your life in a way where you are consistently growing and attempting to achieve the things that you want to achieve, you're going to be just better across the board.
100%. It's like carrying a firearm.
Yeah.
Like if you're not proficient with it on a regular basis, it might actually be a detriment to be carrying that thing.
100%.
Because if you need to use it and you haven't fired it in 2 years, one, is it still working?
Yeah.
And two, are you confident and skilled enough to actually use it the right way?
Yeah.
You know, like, do you know my buddy Bobby Maximus?
No, I don't think so.
So he's a friend of mine. He's in Utah. He's I think he's 44. Forgive me if I got that wrong, Bobby. But he's an absolute beast year round. He's like 6'3", 241, completely shredded, and is always at the top of his game because he's I forget which organization or federation of jiu-jitsu he was in, but I think he was like 11 or 12 years in a row won his age group for his thing. Like he travels to go do this. And I think it was even 2 years ago, he swept it. Didn't have a single point scored against him, like during the whole tournament, like just completely, truly dominated.
Yes.
But it's because, in my opinion, because he stays ready. Like he knows when those competitions are coming, but he was on, let's see, he was in the UFC back in the day. He was on the first season of The Ultimate Fighter.
Oh, nice.
And then he was again on as the oldest contestant ever, I think 2 or 3 years ago now, when they brought him back on. And it's because he's just always ready. And people just look at him like, what is the deal? And his, like, you would love to meet him because, like, his thing is he's just always ready. Yeah. That's it. It's for whatever happens.
I think it's the big difference between, there's kind of like this split in combat sports of like the hobbyists and the professionals. And I think one of the biggest things is like, no, dude, you do this shit. I live this shit. Like, you do this. This is something you do. It's a hobby you have, and you may be very invested in it, which is great. And like, again, more power to you. If this is just a fun thing that you do, I love that you're doing it. I love that you're here. I love that you're invested, but like, don't get it twisted. Like I live this. This is like my whole life. Like, you know, every single day. That's where my mind is. And most of the guys who are, you know, at that next level that I'm trying to achieve, that's the thing that I've noticed. It's like, no, dude, like this is my life. Like I will always do this. I'm a firm believer in, you know, no matter the injury, no matter what happens to me, as long as I'm alive, I'll be fighting. Yeah. Whether it's competitively or just in the gym, like I've made that decision already to be like, no, this is part of who I am. And I think a big mistake people make is they think that the who they are is what they do. It's like, no. Who you are is who do you decide to be. It's the lifestyle you decide to live. Yeah. So if you're that guy who's constantly ready, that's your life. That's you. That's who you are. Yeah. And, you know, I know he'd be doing it if he didn't have a leg. He'd be doing it if he didn't have an arm. Yeah. And that's the, you know, to kind of bring it full circle, like the mental game, that's a big part of the mental game. Yeah. Is again, like, you know, when I walk into a jiu-jitsu tournament, walk into a Muay Thai tournament, walk into a fight, it's like, no, like a lot of these guys, they talk about doing it or they do it, but like we live it. Like that's the whole thing. Yeah.
I love that you said that. Some guys do it, others live it. Yeah. I mean, that's true. And that's, I got to introduce you to Bobby because he's the truth.
He might, honestly, I have to ask my cousin because my cousin's out in Utah and I know he trains out there. So I'm sure it's a small world, man.
He probably knows him. He writes for Men's Health magazine. He was like a Traeger athlete, you know, but he also is part of a Clearwater distillery.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I know Clearwater.
Yeah. They make great stuff. Yeah. And that was the original way that we met was through Earn Your Booze. Because he's out there, you know, just like I said, he's always in shape, always jacked. But then he has no problem showing has a ribeye and a glass of whiskey, and it drives people nuts. Yeah. And I love that because I'm like, dude, you can totally do this. He's living proof. He stays fight ready year round, looks better than 99.9% of the people out there. He's the most capable guy out there, and he can still have drinks and steaks and donuts with the kids and all these things. And it just, people can't comprehend that.
Yeah.
So I want to ask you about that, because you're making a pro debut now as a fighter, professional athlete, but you're also a beverage program director, which means you're behind the bar a lot.
Yeah.
You're testing a lot of recipes. Like, you're making things, you're drinking alcohol, you're having this bar food. And a lot of people are like, wait a minute, how is that possible? I get it all the time. Like, how do you show up at all the beer festivals and still look like that? I'm like, well, I'd fucking earn it. You know what I mean? Like, it's not just a gimmick. Like, this is a real lifestyle that, I live. And my first company, Earn Your Booze, I mean, you embody it like perfectly. Like so many people, like Bobby or Mandy. So like, tell us though, like, you going in to make a pro debut, also being a beverage director for a great, group of restaurants and bars. How does that work? Like, what do you tell people that are like, nah, bro, like, it doesn't make sense to me?
Yeah, I think
I get it. What do you tell them?
Yeah, I think intention is a big thing, right? Like, I kind of firmly stand by the idea that as long as you do things with intention, you can kind of get away with more stuff than otherwise. Okay. I'm never caught off guard by having a beer. Like, I'm not ever somewhere and be like, you know what? Yeah, I'll have a beer. Like, if I'm going out and I'm like, I'm going to have a beer tonight.
Yeah.
I make that decision ahead of time. I plan for it.
Do you do anything? Let's talk to the skeptic here. Do you do anything special for that, or are you just so dialed in with your nutrition, hydration, and training that you just look at it as like some extra calories or something? Like, how do you handle when you're going to go drink?
To be honest, I'm not super worried about the calories. I mean, I probably burn 5,000, 6,000 calories a day.
Right.
So it's like, and I'm hurting for calories most of the time.
Same
like,
here.
I'll take them where I can get them.
It's like, how'd you eat that pizza? Well, I needed that pizza.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that's definitely a big part of it. And I'm not an advocate for that lifestyle either. You know, I don't think that it's sustainable necessarily to, if you have a family and you run a business, it's not sustainable to work out 2-3 hours a day.
Yeah. Like,
just a lot of the time it isn't. And that's okay. It's not, again, you do this shit, I live this shit. It's just different things. A big one, the biggest I think for me is hydration and recovery. So I know if I'm if I'm going to a wedding, the wedding day isn't the most important day. The next day is. Every time I've ever been injured, whether you want to call it coincidence or not, every time I've ever been injured, it's because I went out drinking the night before. And then I was like, no, man, like I just, I need to get some training in. So I'll go in. And the next day, I popped my AC joint like last year, a year and a half ago, whatever it was. I've gotten hurt plenty of times, torn stuff. And
why do you think that is?
I think partially, again, the recovery and the hydration is a big one, because usually what you're coupling the drinking with is a late night. So you're not sleeping, your body
lower quality sleep.
Lower quality sleep. You're not sleeping as much. You're also dehydrated from the drinking. I'm a big fan. The more I get into it, I'm a big fan of neurology. So like the way your nerves fire is just different. You're slower. You're not gonna, you're not gonna respond to things the same way you would, even if you have good responses. The response time is just going to be a little delayed. And especially with something like fighting where the consequences are so high, you just can't do that.
Totally.
So again, very intentional about, I'll only really drink when I know I can afford it the next day. I do have to test a lot of beverages, but it's mostly like straw testing. So I'm taking, less than like a half of an ounce of alcohol.
Yeah.
And I'm very aware of kind of where my threshold is. I also think that a big part of it is experience. So knowing, I not only do I know that I can, where my kind of boundaries are, but my tolerance is higher. Like I've been drinking mezcal for ever now. I've tried more than I care to admit. And, it's a lot of it is for sure, you build up that tolerance, but the way I always tell people in the drinking game or like beverage game is they're like, well, how do you do it? Like, do you get hangovers, all this stuff? And I'm like, look, man, the way I live my life, I look at it two ways. It can either hurt to drink or it can hurt not to drink. Like, that's really it. You can get, you get alcoholics who are like, they can live their life drinking every night and they'll be fine the next day because their body is metabolizing it. It's grown accustomed to that substrate of energy. Or you can be that guy who's like, damn, did you wake up the next day and lights hurt and your head's kind of pumping? I try not to get there, but
Same.
everything in moderation, including moderation. Every once in a while, you gotta have a night out. You gotta kind of like blow off some steam.
I literally did it last night.
There you go.
I mean, it was, I think certainly first time all year, and probably first time within a year.
Yeah.
It was just me and my guys, Adam and Rob. We went for a meeting, ended up having some coffee, and then it's like, oh, cool. No, I'll try that Negroni.
Yeah.
And then it just turned into a handful more. But it was cool because it was a good break away from being so busy and so dialed in with business 7 days a week. Because we've been 7 days a week for about 3 months now on some big projects. And like you said, like it was a good break, a good change up. And we all left there fired up, not because we had some drinks and we were just like being stupid, but it was just like, no, this was a good like bonding moment. It was a good break from our other reality for a minute. And nobody abused it. Nobody's hungover or throwing up or nothing like that. But we had a great time. Yeah. So that's what I've always told people is like, if you want to earn your booze, in my opinion, like one, you want to stack the deck in your favor as much as possible by being in as best shape as possible, staying hydrated, having your hormones, your blood work, your supplements, all that dialed in. Yeah. Because let's face it, drinking alcohol is not good for us.
It's poison.
Yeah. But if we can put it in and have our body just like a machine that is just cooking through calories, that is just whatever comes in, it just gets processed and it gets, and it's out. Yeah. Like if you do that, stack that in your favor, be in as best shape as possible. Moderate, like be a good person when you drink, like know when you're about to go overboard and like don't let it happen, and handle your business. Like if you have like if your business is taken care of, your home life is taken care of, your stuff is organized, clean, like you literally have taken care of business in your life, dude, why not? Yeah. You can fit in some time like that. We don't have to always be completely dialed and tuned in and be productive all the time, because that's where you can kind of spiral and be like, man, that's, in my opinion, that's how a lot of people get burned out. Yeah. Is they're trying to do too much perfection. They try to optimize too much, and then they realize they can't actually do it, and it kind of messes with them. So that's why I like that. But I like that you do you live by the earn your booze mentality, because let's be real, that's most people. Yeah. No, yeah, that's kind of, and again, like setting up my life in the way that I can live basically, the same way, or try to live the same way 7 days a week. Obviously, one of the most beautiful things is that it's also shown me that like nobody's perfect. Whether you're UFC champion of the world or a business owner or just some random guy, everybody runs into the same issues. Everybody has the same problems. Everybody's trying to schedule. Everybody's running into family issues, car issues. I had a tire blowout last week, and that was like, oh no, I got to deal with this while trying to make it to training, while trying to make it to work, and so it's nice in the sense that nobody, I don't think really truly anybody has it just like made out for them. It's given me a lot of sympathy and empathy for people I never thought I'd have empathy and sympathy for, whether that's, millionaires and billionaires. I'm like, no, dude, they have issues too. Like they have to deal with stuff. In fact, they probably have much higher consequences for not dealing with stuff. Oh yeah. Right. And so it's very nice to see that from the business side as well as the athletic side. I do think that alcohol is an interesting dance. So my personal kind of philosophy with it is very similar. Just earn it. Like if you can get to a place where you don't feel bad about it, like because when you feel those doubts creeping up, you're like, oh man, I don't know, you've been drinking a lot this camp. Like maybe your body won't perform. Well, that shit like eats away at you. Yeah. If you have the same thing where you're like, oh man, you had that one beer. It's like, yeah, dude, it was one beer. I knew I was going to have it. Training was fine. Like my body feels good. I was hydrated. I had all my vitamins. I ate right. Like I'm not worried about that one beer. Yeah. I'd rather have a margarita than a big can of Coke. Yes. I mean, like it's just whatever. It's just neither one of them is healthy. Yeah. So like if you earn it, then there's plenty of room for it. Definitely. You mentioned having issues and working through things. I don't necessarily say failure anymore. I like to look at everything that goes other than great as a lesson. Yeah. So I'd like to hear about your one loss and how that affected you in the moment, and then coming out of that loss. Like how do you get from, like winning all your other fights, this one didn't go according to plan. Yeah. Like, so in specifically like when it was over, I lost this particular fight. Tell me how your mind kind of gets from that state to, no, I'm getting back to winning now.
Yeah.
Like, how does that transition work for you? What was that like?
So actually, I in a way, I kind of disagree with you, and I'll elaborate on that only because jiu-jitsu as a community is very big on this mentality of like, you either win or you learn. And like, I personally don't subscribe to that. Like, I think I'm like, no, you lost. Like, sit in it. Like, you need that failure. Like, you failed. It's okay to fail, but you failed. Like, you need to sit in that shit.
I like that.
You need to feel it. Like, because if you, I think, you know, and it seems like there are people who can process it, I think, well, the other way, but I don't think most people do. I think most people are constantly like, oh no, I didn't lose, I learned. And it's like,
I actually think I do both. So I'm glad you said this because I 100% agree. When something goes wrong, I sit in it for a minute.
Yes.
Because I'm like, man, I need to understand that this was not the outcome I wanted.
Yes.
And then I immediately, okay, what can I learn from it? What am I going to take from this and put on the whiteboard to get better or do better? So I agree. It is definitely both. Acknowledging that you lost.
Yes.
And like Tim Grover talks a lot about like, you know, having that dark side and just really learning through adversity.
Yeah.
Sure. Damn it. I lost. I don't know what happened. Let me figure out what happened so I can turn it into a lesson.
Yes. And that's I think the big kind of disconnect for most people is I'm like, losing shouldn't feel good. Like Correct. It just shouldn't. It's supposed to feel bad inherently by what it is, whether that's, you know, a failure to perform or if it's a failure in business.
Yeah.
You know, it hurts.
Because we can tap into that. Yes. You know, we tell people all the time, like something goes bad in business or life or fighting, like, dude, don't just ignore it and forget it ever happened. Like if that gives you like the edge now to get that fire back, and now that's something you can use like, ooh, I am not going to let that happen again. Dude, that's actually a superpower. So like, dude, I'm glad I lost that one because now I have an extra edge to apply to the training and everything I've done afterwards because I'm not going to let that happen. Now I'm going to beat this dude with an extra degree of just, you know, of everything that came from that.
I think that's a big part of it too, is having the understanding of like, okay, I lost, this sucks, but one, there are mistakes that I made that now I can correct, that I have the consequence that now I have to correct.
Right.
And then two, it's having the understanding of like not the humility. I don't think is, you know, the guy who says like, oh, you know, I'm not that good. And then is actually a world champ. Humility is having the understanding that like everyone loses. Dude, everyone loses. Like Dan Gable, the greatest American wrestler of all time, arguably the greatest Olympic wrestler of all time. He's lost.
Right.
Chael Sanderson, he's lost. Like all these guys who are, you know, Fedor Emelianenko, undefeated forever, came back, made a comeback, I think he got knocked out or TKO'd. It's like everybody loses. Time is undefeated. Time will always beat everyone.
Yeah.
Whether you can be the best, you can be Mike Tyson, but Mike Tyson's only Mike Tyson for so long. Yeah. Eventually he's going to be 60, 70, 80, 90. Like eventually someone's going to get the edge. Someone's going to be better eventually. Right. It might not be while you're in your prime, and that's fantastic. Good job, you did it.
Yeah.
But like everyone loses. That's the idea. And so like you were saying, taking those as lessons and being like, you know, reevaluating, particularly with me and my one loss, I think is the most important thing that's happened to me in my personal career. Cause it's kind of like, I've lost jiu-jitsu matches. I've lost wrestling matches. Losing a fight's different. When you're getting like beat up, it's different. It just feels different. It's a helpless kind of, you know, I failed myself. I didn't fail. Yeah. I failed my coaches. I failed my teammates. I failed my family and my friends, but like, more importantly, I failed myself. I said I was going to do all these things that I failed to do. Luckily for me, my loss, I was, you know, and all credit to the guy who beat me. I think he's like number one ranked 170, 185 in the country at amateur now. But it was a very harrowing moment for me in the sense that I had to sit down and have a very serious conversation with myself where I was like, okay, do you do this shit for real or do you just want to say that you do this? Yeah. And so if you do this for real, like you got to dial it in. Yeah. You got to start training better. You got to start eating better. And, you know, particularly with that fight, we had just opened a restaurant. So I had just I think I had trained 4 or 5 times for that fight. And it showed, and it felt it. And I failed. The worst feeling was just being like, I just didn't do my best to prepare. I did my best in the fight, but your best at 30% is not the best that you could have been.
Good point.
And so that was a big thing. And I look at it the same way. I was just listening to Dan Gable talk about this, where he had one loss in college. And when he talks about it, he's like, that was the most important match of my life. The guy who beat him subsequently came out and said, like, that was the worst thing that ever happened to me. Because I beat Dan Gable. He's like, that set me on a path to kind of be worse off in the future, where the loss for Dan Gable was the thing that he was like, never again, never, ever again. And so I hope that I can use that loss in the same way. Only time will tell, but I look at it like that, where it's very, in a lot of ways, it's the most important thing that's happened thus far.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping that that's more than enough fuel. And I think it is, to be like, no. Like, you're waking up early, you're running, you're doing jiu-jitsu, you're grappling, you're striking, you're getting in hard rounds, you're doing strength and conditioning, you're investing in your nutrition, you're investing in your body, you're investing in your rest. Like, these are things that if you say this is important to you, again, stack that proof, right? You got to stack that proof.
That's right. That's really good. What are your thoughts on Jake Paul and Mike Tyson?
Honestly, dude, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm kind of torn on Jake Paul in the sense that he does have legitimate skill. He's a good boxer. I would say he's like a really good amateur or like a low-level pro. But Mike Tyson's Mike Tyson, man. Like, even watching him hit pads now, he's still a terrifying
It's
human
scary.
being. He's so scary.
Yeah.
And I heard some shit about the rule set being like a tag team match, and I don't know what that'll all entail. And obviously it's a money grab and a marketing stunt, but there's something where I respect anyone who will get in the ring with the full consequences present.
100%. Millions of people watching.
Millions of
body
people watching.
consequences.
Yeah, like
ego consequences.
100%. And
Yeah.
Jake Paul's what, like 26, 27, something
Yeah.
like that. Mike Tyson's in his 50s. It's like, if you get either way that it goes, I mean, realistically, Logan Paul or Jake Paul loses. It's like, because if you win, it's like you beat a 50, 60-year-old. But if you win, if he loses, you lost to a 50, 60-year-old.
Sure.
And kind of same for Mike Tyson, right? Like, if he wins, it's like, well, that's Mike Tyson. But if he loses, that's Mike Tyson.
Yeah.
So I think I'm a big fan of like freak shows.
Yeah.
Like the big part of fighting is applicability. Like, I want to know. I just want to know who wins.
Yeah.
You don't know. Like that's why we always have these debates, like Muhammad Ali or Mike Tyson, who would win, Hoist Gracie in his prime, or
Who knows?
No one knows.
Yeah.
We don't know until it happens. And
Yeah.
even then, I think we talked about this on the live call. All you're really doing, it's just probabilities. Like,
Yeah.
you might win 9 out of 10 times, but it only takes that 1 out of 10.
Right.
Like, you win that 1 out of 10. It's the only thing that matters.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm a big fan of freak shows, man. Like, I want to see a grizzly fight a silverback. I want to see weird stuff.
Totally.
So on that end, I get it. And it's good for the sport in a lot of ways, because it does bring awareness to combat sports, drives in money.
Totally.
But
in my opinion, like, I think I never watched much boxing, so take it with a grain of salt, but
Yeah.
I think boxing was kind of done before Jake.
Yeah.
And like you said, it's kind of a freak show, kind of interesting story. Like, who is this guy? Is he serious or not? But as he keeps going, he keeps winning and winning and winning and like going and like, so when it comes to this Mike Tyson and Jake Paul, like, I got mad respect for him, because who else in the world in our lifetime has fought Mike Tyson?
Yeah.
Especially if you're not a pro fighter. Like, dude has done such a good job at creating like this thing.
Yes.
It's like, dude, I think you have to give him props. To get Mike Tyson to sign the contract, yes, I'll do it.
Yeah.
Like, imagine how many guys would love to say they fought Mike Tyson, because this is probably it. And I've never seen Mike Tyson fight live.
Yeah.
I've never seen it. I don't even remember, as a kid, I guess, because he's been retired for a while. Mm-hmm. Or I just missed his last handful of fights. This is our opportunity to see Mike Tyson fight. Yes, he's older and he's been retired for a while, but like, we're going to watch a Mike Tyson fight. Like that was done. Like we can never go see Pantera.
No.
They're gone. Some of the guys are dead. Like it's not, or they're not a thing anymore. I missed Pantera in concert. Like I missed, Mike Tyson in a fight. Now I get to see him, even though it's a different thing. But I also wonder, like afterwards, it's very interesting to have Jake and Mike fighting. Because like you said, no matter who wins, it's a weird story for both of them.
Yeah.
Like, is he going to be proud that he knocked out Mike Tyson if he does?
Yeah.
I think I'd be super proud if he knocked me out. Like if Jake gets laid out by Mike Tyson, that's still a win.
Yeah.
That's cool as fuck, dude.
100%.
You got him to agree to go in the room or in the ring with you, and then you got knocked out by Mike Tyson. Chalk that up as a cool thing.
Yeah.
Like that's pretty neat.
And don't get it twisted either. It's the same thing as like Mike Tyson at 50, 60 is not the same as most other boxers.
Correct.
Like, it'd be different if he was fighting Muhammad Ali
right
towards the end of his life, arguably the greatest of all time. It's always the argument's always like him and Tyson and, Floyd, when you get into there, I'll say heavyweights, one of the greatest heavyweights of all time. Towards the end of his life, like he's not moving the same.
No.
You watch Tyson hit pads and he's still terrifying, dude.
And that's why I think this one is so interesting, because people see those videos of Tyson. They're like, oh, yeah, he's 56 maybe, 50, something like that. So on one hand, you want to discount him for being older and past his prime and retired and all that. But you watch it like he still might knock his head off.
Yeah.
So it's interesting,
Yeah, no, definitely.
But I wonder if Jake would like saying, like, if it was me, like, I don't even know if I'd want to be like, yeah, I knocked out Mike Tyson. Well, because you did, but you knocked out an older version of him. Yeah. But again, I think it's just genius for what he's doing for marketing, because personal branding is basically everything.
Yeah.
He's becoming one of the most well-known people on the planet because of stuff like this. So, I mean, it's a win for sure. His business, his reputation, his fame, everything is just being built right in front of us. So it's pretty cool, I think.
Yeah.
No, and I'm going to watch it for sure.
Yeah.
It's on Netflix. It's easy to watch.
Yeah. I think everybody will watch it. Like that's the thing too, is
like a train wreck almost. Like, I don't know what to expect. I have to see it though.
Yes. Yeah. Like I think everybody who talks shit about it, I'm like, you're going to watch it.
Yeah.
Like you're like, oh, I would never. It's like, you're going to watch it.
And all the arguments about, like you said, like there's so many variables we don't know, because there's these huge arguments now, and I'm not involved in any of them because it's pointless in my opinion. They're like, oh, Mike this and Jake that, and I'm like, dude, you can talk all you want. All it's going to come down to is what happens in the ring.
Yep.
That's it.
That's what I love about it.
We'll
see.
Yeah. You can't research and strategize and figure out the conclusion. You just can't.
Yeah.
We have no idea.
100%. That's the best part. I think that applies to fighting in general too.
Yeah.
It's like, that's my favorite thing. That's why I'm not a big fan of shit talking. It's not even that, the warrior mentality stuff. It's just kind of like, we're already going to fight, dude. It's going to happen regardless. We don't like talking shit is kind of a step down from that.
I look at shit talking, especially like at the high level. I think it makes sense because that's how you get headlines and you grab attention and go viral for certain crazy things you said, But that's why I think up there, I know that's why they do it there. Yeah. And they're also trying to get in the other guy's head.
Yeah.
But like maybe, if you don't have that much attention or eyes on you, like live TV, ESPN and stuff like that, like I agree. It's like you don't need to talk shit to the guy you're about to go up against, because like you're both trying to do your best.
Yeah.
And like, you want to let that guy know you're going to dominate him and ruin his day, but it doesn't have to be public, like just shit talking about their life and all this kind of stuff. It doesn't make any sense, I don't think.
Yeah.
So, all right. So you think you have your next fight in about 3 months, looking at June?
Yeah. So I'm going to do, so right now it's kind of up to my coaches. Okay. We're talking it over, but I'm thinking June for the pro debut, hopefully out here in Phoenix.
This is MMA?
MMA, yeah.
Okay.
And then, but leading up to that, kind of the tell will be, I think I'm going to do, there's a Muay Thai Open. So it's great because it's just strictly striking, and that's really what I need to work on. So I'm going to do that in May, and that's a tournament format. So you have the last time I did it, I had 4 fights in 3 days.
Yeah.
So it's like, you just nonstop.
Yeah.
A lot of good experience, a lot of, again, just purely striking. Which that will kind of be the tell, but I'm hoping, but I'm also thinking that it'll be June for the pro debut, and then hit the ground running, man. Just
And you got some sponsors rolling in there with you. Or like, how does all that kind of work at your level? Where becoming a pro, Like, cause a lot of guys are, they got certain things on their pants and
Yeah.
all that. Like, do you have sponsors now or how's
Yeah.
that
So
work?
I had sponsors for my last fight, which I think, moving forward, that is kind of the main revenue stream at first. Like obviously, the restaurants helped sponsor me with that. Tacos Chihuas, which is our owner's other brand, and then Cocina Bacanora Espiritu Santo now, and I have even my PT at Building a Fighter, the gyms technically like Fight Ready, J Pages, sponsorships, whether it's monetary or a lot of times it could even be like trade, right? So one of my buddies, Ken, he does this meal prep service called Matt Munchies. And so I'll use them and, we may figure out a deal there or it can just be straight, money marketing, right?
Yeah,
You're getting
for sure.
eyes on a brand. That's kind of one of the biggest things I think that I'm trying to make a push for now is just getting a brand out there. Like you said, branding is everything. And you need the eyes to have an argument for a revenue stream
For sure.
Sponsorships.
Well, you have eyes in maybe a couple different ways because I know your Instagram is what again?
Undeniable.
Yeah. So that's getting some traction and growing, but you have a lot of eyes on you because of the different things you do. Again, back to the restaurants, the bars.
Yeah.
You're also fighting. You're obviously very well spoken. Like you're out there. So like I think you'd be great like a drink sponsor.
Yeah.
Like maybe a tequila or
that's
something.
what we're trying to work on right now.
I mean, why not?
Shout out to management at Ascendant MMA management.
I mean, think about it. If you're a tequila brand, you're trying to stand out, right? There's so many tequila brands out there now. Like The Rock is just coming out and dominating because he's The Rock, you know? So like if a tequila brand's like, all right, how are we going to stand out? Well, having somebody like yourself who's, again, pro fighter, but also pro, I don't want to say drinker, but pro in the beverage world, like, man, you could really represent both, like showing what it's like to train and earn this drink and why you stand behind the quality of this drink. And like, I don't have a tequila brand, but I'm just like, if there's a tequila brand listening, in my opinion, like this is a good idea.
Yeah.
Because it makes so much sense. And it's unique. Because think of how most of them market.
Yes.
It's all the same stuff. They're trying to stand out with their quality, their number of times distilled or 100% agave. It's all the same shit.
Yeah.
Like how about stand behind like a movement or a guy like you that's like doing something different. He's fighting.
Yeah.
Like what? Yeah. That's different than every other tequila brand that's just trying to be the beach brand or trying to be super high quality for cocktails. Like, you bring such different eyes to it.
Yeah, that's I think that's one of the big kind of things. And I know we've spoken and to kind of announce it, I guess, here, but like even doing stuff with like I'm starting a YouTube page for educational purposes, and then the thing I love about doing anything from a teaching standpoint is that it also helps you learn. So I think the YouTube page will be fantastic, and I'm gonna subsequently drop that when the podcast drops as well. Doing things like the blog posts through you guys, Adrian and all, trying to kind of get your guys' MMA program going and bring eyes through it that way. I think a lot of it is building a community that if they don't all stand for the same thing, they can at least understand the same thing. And the booze for sure is a big one, right? Like marketing dollars and tequila companies particularly, but like really any booze brands, it's like, yeah, man, like I'll take your money. I'll take money wherever I can get it, try to facilitate a young boy's dream.
Yeah. Well, and you're already a pro in that world too. So you know what's good, what's trash and all that. And Mandy, your manager is, I've met her and worked with her for many years now through Earn Your Booze. You guys know the good stuff. So it's not that you would just say yes to any old brand. Like you're not taking like a plastic bottle of, I don't even know what plastic bottle tequila would be these days.
Yeah,
but we're not, this is not just a money grab. Like it's got to be the right brand that gets it and is the right quality, is the right branding, the right fit.
Yeah.
But there's plenty of them out there that I think should definitely consider doing it.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of like not selling out in the sense that I generally make the joke like I've been poor before. Like I don't mind going back. I'd rather not sell out for something that I don't stand behind.
Yeah.
Or even. One of the things I personally love about fighters and restaurant workers is everybody's kind of just a fucking degenerate. And I resonate with that so heavily because I don't mind doing bad stuff, like in the sense of, going out drinking, getting wasted, and then going to work. And like, as long as you're good to work, like it's that mentality of being like, this guy is kind of a piece of shit, but he's open about it. He's like, yeah, I do X, I do Y, I do Z. I'm a pirate. I'm a cowboy. Like I don't, but when it's time to work, I show up and I work.
Yeah.
So even along those lines of being like, look, this shit isn't quality, but it's cheap.
Right.
Like I almost resonate with that just as much as I do the quality components, if that makes sense,
yeah.
like having outright stances on being like, this is what I do support. This is what I don't support.
Yeah.
This is why I support it. I'm never gonna, I think that when you start playing that game too much of kind of like trying to weasel around and be like, no, yeah, that's my favorite X, Y, or Z. And you go, okay, well, why don't you ever use it?
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, it's one of those things where as opposed to, it's one of the things I love about normal, like I listen to a lot of comedy podcasts and the sponsorships are always, like, ooh, yeah, these guys are the best, and it's like, no, I actually do use them, or like, they gave us a lot of money to say this,
It's like a lot of sports supplements. It's like, like especially back in the day, it was so bad. Like even guys like Jay Cutler, like, I take this crealkaline creatine pill and this is why I look like this. It's like, bro, you never put one of those in your mouth ever,
exactly.
And like you're just standing behind the most trashiest supplements ever trying to get people to sell. And I get it's marketing, but like, dude, how about we tell people how you're actually earning
just
that?
Be genuine about it. Yeah. Like that's okay. Like it's okay to, I think, it's okay to be like, hey, these guys sponsor me. They're supporting me, and in turn, I'm supporting them.
Yeah.
Because like they're actually putting their money where their mouth is, and maybe they just have so much money that they can afford to do that.
Sure.
But I do to an extent. I do kind of respect that idea of being like, even if this isn't something that checks all the boxes, it checks most of them, checks some of them. I have the flexibility to be like, this isn't. I wouldn't drink this, but if you're a frat boy, like, out on the town, you're looking for a cheap drink, this is for you, for my tequila guys, like I wouldn't drink this, like don't drink it. Or, like for the people who want to spend money, I would go here. And so I try to walk both worlds a little bit,
cool.
in that sense.
Yeah. So you said you have a YouTube channel coming, and we've been talking about, how you are helping people become more capable and get into this combat world, increase their confidence, their skill sets and all that. So tell us what you have coming, like YouTube and otherwise, where people can learn from you. Yeah.
So I'm going to drop some YouTube videos starting, I think, again, I'm going to make it concurrent with this podcast. A lot of it will be kind of like daily routines, a lot of entry level stuff at first in terms of like finding a gym, what you're looking for in a gym etiquette, equipment, basic daily rollouts. Because I reach out to a lot of like clients and people who aren't in the game, but kind of want to get in the game and don't know where to start. Even things like daily routine, what you're asking before, what is a daily, what do your workouts look like during the week? Like how much time do you spend grappling versus striking versus strength and conditioning? And then, some of the stuff for the normies, because realistically, the vast majority of human beings just aren't trying to be professional fighters.
Right.
So even if you can just be a little bit more capable, you're like, oh, okay, well, I know, I need to manage the distance properly. I need to try and get behind somebody. I need to leverage my mechanics, leverage my energy, whatever it is. I firmly stand behind the idea that I think everybody should be able to fight. I've only really see it make people better. It makes worse people better, even though they're still shitty people.
Sure.
They're better people than they would have been otherwise. And then I think it makes good people even better because now you're capable. You have an understanding of dire physical consequences, as Joe Rogan puts it. So a lot of educational stuff, a lot of selfishly, it's kind of self-serving, to be honest, because a lot of it I think will help me teach my clients. A lot of it will help me be a better fighter, see where the holes in my game are. I'm sure my heart will just break every time people are in those comments, dude, keyboard warriors. But
I love it, dude.
Yeah.
Like, every time, like, if I get some keyboard warriors in there just going off, I'm like, go, keep going. Help me, feed the algorithm. Like just go. And it's just good data just to see whatever.
Yeah.
Like,
The interaction, right?
I used to sweat it, in the beginning. It's like, oh man, one person didn't like something I said or posted. Now I'm just like, bring it on. You know, like it's good.
And sometimes even swallowing that ego, right? And being like, you said there's, a 10-year requirement for a coral belt. It's actually 15 or whatever it is. Like stuff like that. You're like, all right, fact check. Now I know it hurt. I hate you a little bit, but like, ultimately, thank you for that.
Yeah, I think it's so funny. Like my buddy Sean Whalen says this all the time. If he'll put something on his story, if you like misspell something, and someone will call it out, and he'd be like, "You're so worried about me misspelling something. How about you read what I wrote?
Yes,
because there are some great lessons in what whatever this in what I said there. But all you can see is this one little flaw. That's why you're not getting ahead. Yeah. You're worried about this shit that doesn't matter. How about the message? Yeah. Did you hear the message? Are you going to use it?
Yeah, it's the man in the arena. That old Theodore Roosevelt poem. It's like everybody's a critic, man. Like, it's really easy to sit on the edge of the ring and be like, he keeps dropping his left hand. Right. If I was in there, my left hand would be high. It's like you're not in there. So
no, you're not there.
Yeah, like
you're not on the contract.
You can criticize, but like just have that understanding of like you're not that guy.
Right.
You're just not. So I have noticed as a general rule, the people making corrections are generally less than competent.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things of being just at a certain point, I'm like, dude, how miserable is your life that you just sit on here just trying to pick people apart from afar? I always
they're not doing anything with their lives.
Yes,
you're actually out there. You're actually doing it.
Yeah,
like you're in the ring literally. Like, and that's why you got a pro debut this year. It's because you've been putting in the work, and like you said earlier too, a lot of people that scream the loudest have the least experience, the least capability, the least skill set, and it's just funny. So I just let them yell because you're out there actually doing the work.
Yeah, and that's I think that's kind of the where you have to divorce that feeling of and it's one of the primary components why I think everybody should learn how to fight, because I'll never forget, I was listening to a psychologist talk about how when you're in an argument, like a verbal argument, even if it's online, your brain processes it the same way they do a physical altercation.
Yeah.
So if you don't have the experience of separating those two, it's why like online comments, like chat boards get so heated. Like it immediately becomes like, I'll kill you and your whole family.
It's like, bro, you have no idea who you're talking to. You don't know anything about them. There's no reason to get your blood pressure up about it.
No.
Ultimately, if you do, like you decided to do that. That wasn't that person.
Yeah.
Like if you're in traffic and someone cuts you off, 100% was their fault. If you decide to put the finger out the window and chase them down and have it ruin your day, that was you.
Yes. Yeah.
They are probably unaware they even made a shitty move. So it's like, it's not them. You decided to have that emotion.
Yeah. And it's the context of also understanding, like, it's funny. I every once in a while we'll have to kick out drunk people from the bar or I get crazy homeless people coming in. I had a homeless guy try to fight me like a couple months ago, which was hysterical. I was like, what if I punched you in the face? I was like, I would love that.
Yeah.
And it's funny. You see these people who are, I like to call it like unbaptized in the ways of combat. You see like they don't know, they get that adrenaline spike and they start shaking and it happens to me too.
Sure.
But I can divorce them. Like, dude, you fight all the time. Like, this isn't a fight. We're talking. This is just an argument. We're just having an argument right now. There's no reason. This isn't, he's not trying to hurt you. I'm not trying to hurt him. We can just have a talk.
Yeah.
Like, that's okay. And if it escalates, beautiful.
Yeah.
I hope it does. But if it doesn't escalate, I think so many people aren't familiar with that idea. They never fight. So as soon as they get that red flag of like, oh no, we're arguing, we're fighting. It's like, you're not fighting, dude. You're arguing. You're talking. Just have a talk. It's okay. So that's one of the other things I kind of hope to bring with the YouTube page, with the blogs, is a little bit more information, education, and kind of spotlighting that idea of being like, you have to be capable, purely, in my opinion, just because I think like shit could hit the fan at any moment. You could just find somebody on a bad day and they just want to fight you, and that's just what it is. But also it helps in so many other ways, like having that understanding of physical versus mental altercations, understanding the idea of like, it gets kind of nebulous, but like even consent, like, because when we're sparring, that's consensual sparring.
Right.
We're not, I'm not jumping someone. Like we've had an agreement that we came together and we're like, I'm going to try and hurt you. You're going to try and hurt me. And like, the idea is, depending on the level we're going, if we're going 50% or 100%, I'm going to hurt you up to a certain point. You know, if we're teammates and we're sparring, I may give a couple of hard punches to the mat to let you know, like, you'd be done right now.
Yeah.
Like, but if it's a fight, I'm like, you're not off that easy, dude. Like, I'm going to just beat you until someone pulls me off of you. So having that understanding of context and consent in that regard of being like, you talk about getting punched in the face, and most people, it's like, this is the first time I've ever been punched in the face, especially with children. That's one of the reasons I love coaching kids, because when you watch them light up, you're like, I can hit them. Yeah. They're like, no one's going to get mad at me.
Right.
And I'm like, no, like, can he hit you? Yeah, you can hit me. I'll be like, but you have to understand, if you can hit him, he gets to hit you. So the only way it works is two-way street. And so kind of working that into the human psychology, I think it only makes people better in my experience.
I'm glad that you said that. So to kind of, I think, wrap up, I think the key message that both of us would like people to take away is probably get punched.
Yes.
Like, start to learn how to fight. It doesn't mean you have to be a pro. It doesn't mean you ever have to do it in a real fight, but start to do that, because you said something else a minute ago that I thought was really insightful. One, we want to learn what it's like to fight so we can start to get some skill to actually use.
Yeah.
But then two is also to know when you're actually fighting or when you're arguing.
Yeah.
Because for someone who's untrained in fighting, they might think it's time to fight because they don't know what fighting is like yet. And where, you might just be in an argument and now you're pushing it too far into a fighting situation that it didn't need to go there. So if you can just have that experience of what it's like to be in there, be like, okay, no, I don't want to go there, because this is still just an argument. It actually might save you from getting in a fight.
Oh, yeah.
And then if you are in a fight, now you hopefully have, some lessons and some skills that you picked up from it that help you with it. So everybody should at least get into what it's like to learn how to fight, I think.
Yes. Nothing's helped me with de-escalation more than being good at fighting.
Yeah.
A lot of it too is just when somebody, a lot of, particularly for men, I don't know how it is for women, but I know for men, there's a lot of peacocking. It's a lot of like, dude, I'll beat your ass.
Right.
And like, I'll never forget, one of my favorite times ever was I had this guy like run up on me for no reason at all. He was just like trying to posture. I was out drinking, out at the bars on like Mill Avenue down here. And this was years ago when I first started training. And he's like, oh, what'd you say, bro? Like, I'll kick your ass. And I remember just like removing my hat, handing it to my friend, and like rolling up my sleeves. And I was like, all right. And he was like, what? I was like, all right, dude, like we can fight. And he's like, oh no, dude, I was just kidding. And you're like, you weren't kidding, bro. Like you wanted to get that, you wanted to find that place in the pecking order.
That's right.
And just understand, like, you might be above me, but we're going to find out.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people, again, they have this idea of what a fight is. And they're like, one punch knockout, he hits the ground, it's like, dude, that's probably not how it's going to go.
Probably not. Yeah.
It's going to be a scrap. You're going to be tired. Best case scenario, you win the fight, but you're still scuffed up. You may have a broken hand, you know? So I think even in terms of learning how to fight also teaches you when you're not fighting just as much as it teaches you how to fight.
Phenomenal. Yeah. So I'm enjoying learning from you, and I'm going to continue learning from you. Where can people find you again? What's the best way? Instagram, email?
Yeah, Instagram. I got to be a little bit better on my Instagram activity, so I'll probably kick that up a notch a little bit. And that's
what is it again?
Undeniable _the on Instagram. It'll be The Undeniable MMA on YouTube. And then, I think we're doing the blog through you guys. So if anybody's subscribed to Earn It All, I'll have some blog posts through there. And if there seems to be a demand for that, maybe, eventually bridge it out to something else. But right now that's where you can kind of get updates on the journey and the fights and hopefully, watch my meteoric rise to stardom.
Dude, I'm excited for the next fight. Like, we're going to be there. Like, we'll have a ton of our people from the Earn It All community there. It's going to be a blast.
Hell yeah.
So I think the sooner the people can start following and learning from you, they can see that in action in the ring, most likely in June, right?
Yes, sir.
It'll be awesome. Yeah. Dude, Adrian, thank you for being on, brother.
Thank you for having me.
It was great talking with you. And, just keep doing what you're doing, man.
No, I appreciate
Leading
it.
by example.
You guys the same.
Killing it in a couple different industries. And it's really cool to know you.
Oh, same, man. Appreciate you,
brother. Thank you.